Hello and welcome to the Stage of Greatness. My name is Danielle Francine, and I have with me my friend Danielle Ippolito, longtime friend from New Jersey. And welcome. I'm really excited to have you with me today, especially, we haven't spoken in person in I don't even know how many years.
Many, many, many.
Many. But just seeing you, like, I feel like I still know you to a certain extent just because of following you on Facebook and seeing all your success with your business and some of your recent posts that you've made. I just like you've been on my mind and in my heart a lot. So I wanted to reach out to you and see if I could snag you and have a conversation with you here. So thank you for taking me up on my invitation and being here.
You're very welcome.
So Danielle owns a fitness studio in New Jersey. And how long have you had that for?
7 years brick and mortar. I started in 2012, but a physical studio since 7 years ago.
Yes, and she is a diva in her business. I see all of the women that follow you and look up to you and are inspired by you. You are an inspiration. And I feel like this conversation that we're going to have is going to just propel that even further. You're going to inspire so many women. So thank you for being courageous.
You're welcome.
So I feel like Danielle and I have some things in common with my marriage that ended and a relationship that almost brought her into a marriage. So do you want to, let's see, how do you want to start this conversation, Danielle? Who was this man? When did you meet him? And well, let's start there.
Well, I won't mention any names, but I met somebody 2 years ago, and with my age being close to 40 at that time, I had a timeline that I think a lot of people put the pressure on themselves to meet a certain timeline in their life of stages where they want to be at. So, I one of my other jobs is I dress up as a princess. So I think I live in a little Disney fairy tale of wanting that big wedding and like that fairy tale of love. And when I met him, I felt all that. And it was very intense in the beginning. And we loved each other, like probably within the first 2 weeks, I think. And we were together every single day. And it was in my head perfect. And he felt the same way. And it was about 7 months into our relationship that we got engaged. We moved right in with each other. He had a kid, I had a kid. We started that family life, and everything was great until it wasn't really. And yeah.
And I feel like that's something that a lot of us as women, we kind of like set that expectation for ourselves, especially when we were younger, right? Like for me, it's like, okay, like I want to be married by the time I'm 27. I want to have my first child when I'm 32. So approaching that, right, like, oh my God, my timeline. And really it's just this crap that we set up for ourselves in our brains.
But yeah, society does that to us, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you had that expectation for yourself, like, okay, I'm approaching 40, I'm not married yet. You meet this man, you fall in love with him, you move in together, you're like, oh my God, family life. I feel like everything's happening now. Right. So like what happened? What was the pivot? What was the shift? Like what was that thing in your head?
Well, when he gives me the ring, like that's a promise. And not only did he promise to me, he promised to my daughter. And as a woman, like when you have that promise, then you start planning things. Like I wanted to be everything to him. Like I wanted to make sure he was happy. I did all the things to make sure he was happy because that's, what I thought, love was. And slowly I was changing so much to be his definition of perfect. Like his ideal of perfect was not my ideal of perfect, but I was doing everything I needed to do to fit in his little box. And when I say little, it was little. Like I feel like I was shrinking myself. I know I was shrinking myself, but I wanted it so bad that I didn't care. Like I was like, we're getting married. Like this is what I have to do for my future husband. Like I will do anything. And just little fights, nothing huge. I mean, it's all normal that I think. To him, he really wanted things to be perfect. And I was actually putting stamps on our invitations to mail out, and he told me he didn't want to get married. So like that day, like I remember like licking those envelopes and him telling me that, and like it crushed me.
Of course.
Yeah.
And was it like, did he give you a reason?
He said it wasn't perfect. Like it wasn't perfect. Like I'm like, you're not going to find perfect. Like we are who we are, but
So, and now looking back at yourself in that moment, when he said that to you, it's not perfect. When you look at the scope of your relationship from where you sit now, do you feel that your relationship was perfect? That he
no,
was perfect?
no. And I remember that day. I think it was probably the next day after he said that to me. Like I went right into therapy. Like I was like, it's me. I never heard of the word gaslighting until I was in therapy, and I didn't realize how much he did that to me. But like, I literally thought everything was my fault. Like he didn't want to marry me because I didn't meet those needs. I wasn't good enough. Like, why would you promise me like you're supposed to love me for me? Like I did not feel good enough. So it wasn't until I went into therapy that I had to have like another outside person like tell me like, no, you didn't go back and see all these red flags. Like we have to dissect this relationship from the start and see what actually really happened, because I lost every bit of confidence, like every bit of self-esteem. Like I at one point didn't even want to live, and I hate to even say it. Like I questioned what I was here for.
Yeah.
And for a guy that was supposed to love me and marry me, like how could you make someone feel like that?
Mhm. And that not feeling good enough, right? Or
Oh,
not worthy.
which is so crazy because I feel like I had so much confidence going into that relationship, but I always like sometimes like when I would preach to other women, I'm like, you are worthy, and like here I am like feeling exactly that way and not even realizing that was happening for months and months, that I was losing myself.
Yeah. And it's such a common thing too. I mean, I see it all the time with the women that I work with, right? Just little things that they'll say, like, oh, my husband says this to me, right? Like, oh, you look da da da. Something that's not uplifting to them. It's kind of like breaking them down. And subconsciously, that's what it's doing. It's just breaking us down, breaking us down, breaking us down. So even when we go in with all the confidence, when we don't get what we want from that person, the love that we know that we deserve, we start to change ourselves. Well, there
Oh
must
yeah.
be something wrong with me. If I change this, then maybe I'll get the love that I want.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, when we were talking before, I changed so much about myself that I didn't even recognize I was changing. And these people would ask me, are you sure you're happy?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I stopped doing everything for myself, everything. Like he wanted to be before my business, before my child. Like he wanted to be number one. And like as a single mother, my daughter's 10, I was running two businesses. Like you're not going to be number one, but that there shouldn't even be a number of where you are in my life. Like we're a team. Like we're supposed to do this together. Like my
Right.
business is now your business. Like support me.
Yeah.
And like, why is it where you are on my list of priorities? Like, it was so crazy to me. Like, I ended up, like, I teach women every day about self confidence and loving yourself and showing up for yourself. And here I am crying in the bathroom before I go teach a class and hating my body. Like, I debated getting plastic surgery because he was a boob guy, and I was like, what can I do to make him happy about my body? And like, we would go out. I wouldn't want to even wear heels because he was too short, and I had to, shrink myself to not even show up how I wanted to show up. Like, when I look back at pictures with him, like, I didn't take care of myself. Like, I would just go out of the house a mess. I would show up to work a mess. Like, and I
Mm,
could tell scrolling in my phone, like, where I was in my life because of how I presented myself,
yeah.
because of where I was with him. And like, a huge thing that maybe I want to talk to you about, like, because you're into like physical appearance and working out. My injuries in my body were screaming, this isn't right. Like,
Mm,
I was actually in a boot, couldn't walk when I was with him at one point because my traumas or I don't even know, my anxiety, stress was coming out in all my older injuries. Like, I would think I was sick for like almost 2 months, like just stuffy and just not healthy when I was with him. And I was like, what is going on? And I swear the second we broke up, the boot was off. I was like, it was so weird. Like, your body tells you, like, just like when you're stressed out and you have a headache, like, my injuries were coming out, and like, my body was trying to tell me, like, something is wrong.
yeah, your body was resistant to that
Yeah.
relationship, to him being in your life.
Yeah. Like, one day I'm showing up in a boot to class, and the next day I'm like on my heels, and they're like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know.
I broke up with
I
him.
released, like, I released the shit. I don't know.
Yeah. So seriously, yeah, that's insane. So like, I mean, again, going back to it, it's like looking back, like you said, scrolling through my phone, I could tell where I was in my life. And at that time, you were like, I love him, I love him, I love him. This is what I want. Right. So it's almost like you were in love with the idea, you were possibly brainwashed, right? Not feeling worthy, needing that approval, that affection from
I
him.
never needed so much validation from him. And like, I look back now, I'm like, what? Like, I needed him to literally make me feel valued. Like, and everything I did was to get his validation. I needed him to, be proud of me.
Yep.
Yeah. And like, I scrolled back in my phone and I found when me and my best friend went to go dress shopping. And that was like probably the worst day of my life. Like, that was supposed to be the most special moment. And I was sad. Like,
Mhm.
I wouldn't even take a picture with the sign that said, like, I found the dress. Like, like, something inside me, because I'm such a fighter, like, my body, my intuition, my gut was like, something is wrong. And I don't know what it is. I want this so bad, but like, something is wrong. And I kept pushing through and like trying to change everything about me to fix myself, because I didn't understand why this guy didn't want it to work.
Mm.
But really, that was, his own childhood trauma. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, really, it was like, trying to push yourself through it so that it could work and fix yourself for it to work. I mean, the relationship that I'm in now, there's no changing anything
I know. And,
about
and
myself. It's just, and
that's an amazing thing.
yeah, well, like when you said before, I talk to women about being, confident and authentic. And I feel like I was always so authentic. And here I am, like changing all these things and losing myself. I don't feel like I've ever been more authentic than now. And looking back, like even a couple years back, I would say the same thing. Like, oh, I'm so authentic. Like, I'm an open book. You can ask me anything. But I never told anyone what was happening in my marriage.
Right.
Like everything else is great. Yeah, I got a great body. I got great friends. Yeah, I'm married. I travel a lot. I have my business. Like, yeah, okay, great.
100%.
And also, same as you, like I wanted the status of marriage. Only I went through with it. You didn't, right? So like leading up to getting married, like I knew that I wanted to be married. Like, okay, yes, I love him. And there was also never any like, wow, this is fucking amazing. he is amazing. He treats me so good. I feel like a princess. I feel like a goddess, right? I'm so in love. Like, okay, yeah, we love each other. So like, let's get married. Like no fireworks, no nothing. Right? My wedding morning, my mom hands me this box of all of these letters from my family, my bridal party, right? My best friends. She's like, everyone wrote these for you to read this morning. I asked Rich to write you one and he never gave me one. I'm like, the man that I'm going to marry didn't even write me a fucking letter for our wedding morning. What? And I was like, oh shit. Right.
You have
And
an oh shit moment there? You do?
oh, yeah, hell yeah. And I was like, okay, like, maybe he wrote it and he forgot. Like, excuses.
Yeah.
But that, like, no. And so there were countless times that I thought throughout my marriage, like, this is all that there is. Like, there's nothing more.
Mm.
Right. And I did all of the things that you did, the not worthy thing, changing myself, losing myself throughout the span of 9 years.
Oh my gosh.
Right. It took me that long. So, like, any women that are listening to this, like, if you're experiencing these things and you're not married, or even if you are married, like, listen to yourself, like, listen to your intuition, listen to your body.
Yeah. I mean, I hated even going to work. Like he literally, this is my passion. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. He literally, and I never thought anyone could have this control over me because I'm not that kind of person, but like he literally made me not want to do what I do for a living. And it's all I know. Like I was going to close the doors to my studio and go get a 9 to 5 job just so I can be with him when he got out of work because he wanted someone that had the same schedule as him and we could give each other all of our attention
And you're
and
like,
looking back
okay,
now
give
and
me
like looking
one.
back now, like sometimes when I'm at work, I'm like, I was gonna give all this up for a guy. Like, what am I thinking? Like,
Yeah. So what is your, like, looking back now, like, what are some lessons that you've learned? What are some nuggets that you've pulled?
well, for one, like to never change myself to be what somebody else wants me to be. Like I am who I am, and like I'm gonna find someone that loves me for me.
Mhm.
I mean, that's number one. I mean, like another thing is like I'm the kind of person where I don't like to fight. So to avoid argument, I'm a people pleaser. So I would just do everything to not fight. And that did not help me in the end either. Um, Also, like not to, you know how they always say like have your own life. They need to have their own life. We didn't do that. Once we got together, like we were together every single day, and like I gave up all my hobbies. I did no self care at all for myself. I gave up all my hobbies. I didn't do anything, and I feel like that's a huge thing. And when he didn't have any hobbies, he kind of like sucked me into that of just being with him all day long. And like I couldn't do any events with my studio, like girls' night. No, no, there would be no girls' night. Like
Mm.
like I just gave up and I feel like that's not ever who I want to be again. And the person that you're with, that it's just when I look back, it was so much harder than I would ever imagine. And I can't believe I let myself lose myself like that.
Mhm. And you know what, though? It's like all of those things that you experienced, all of the things that you look back and you're like, I can't believe I allowed that to happen or I let myself do that. All of that shit happens for us so that we gain clarity on what we really do want, right? And who we want to be and what type of person we want to be with, the relationship that we really do desire,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
like, and all of the things that you gave up, the self-care, the hobbies, the things that actually made you happy, it's like we give that up. We give up the duty, if you want to call it, or actually let's call it the gift of making ourselves happy, to hopefully have somebody else make us happy,
Right.
right? When really we're the only ones that could make ourselves truly happy.
Right. And I did not love myself anymore.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So like where are you now with it? Like emotionally, um, yeah, well, basically emotionally. Like how do you feel about the whole thing and where you are?
Yeah, I mean, after we broke up, we still tried to make it work for a few months. And I think getting back together after that was a huge breaking point because I had been in therapy for about 6 months before we had tried again. And I learned so much in therapy. And I think people are so afraid to ask for that help. And I think it's so crucial to understand why you are the way you are and why other people are the way they are. And I just feel like once it ended that second time around, like that was the closure, I guess you could say, that I needed
Mhm.
to finally end it because that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
And like to understand unconditional love and conditional love, like all he used to say to me is, I love you, but, or I'm sorry, but like everything was a but. And like there was always conditions with everything, everything. Like I feel like he only loved me to a certain capacity of what he was taught growing up. And that's all he can give. And it was just he only could give with conditions. And I want that unconditional. Like I don't
Yeah,
want to feel like I have to be a certain way for you to love me.
absolutely. And I mean, really, it's like if you think about love, right? Like your daughter, okay? You love your daughter no matter what she does, how
Right.
she acts, what she says. If she decides that she wants to become a man, you're still going to love her, right? If she decides to have a career that you're not a fan of, you're still going to love her. It doesn't matter what she does. Like
Right.
there's that love.
Right. And you love their flaws. Like who cares if you have flaws? You love them. Like that's who they are. Like I feel like he took my flaws and was like, this is what you do wrong with like a spotlight over all of them. And I'm like, then I was like trying to figure out how to fix all my flaws. Like crazy.
How do I become not me? Just tell me
Yeah.
who you want me to be, and I will be that person.
I asked him one time, I'm like, oh, do you like anything about me? Anything. Just tell
Mm.
me what you like about me. And my therapist was really good that when we dated the second time around, she's like, just ask him what he loves about you. And I asked him, and he's like, well, you do this for me, and you do this for me. And I was like, no, no, what do you like about me? Like, he literally named all the things I did for him. And it was like,
All about him.
you don't love me. You
Yeah.
don't love me either. Like,
Yeah.
you don't like me as a person.
Yeah. Man. Well, and that, so like looking back at my relationship too, even like any relationships that I had prior to my marriage, I heard something that they said if you try and change something about the person that you love, you don't really love them because you're trying to change them. Right? If you love them unconditionally, like you said, you love their flaws. Like, yeah, they're gonna annoy the shit out of you, but it's not a deal breaker, and you're not gonna be like, "Ah," right? So like looking back in my marriage, I'm like, okay, so I would, do all of these things. And I'm like, you should really do this. Try this, read this, watch this, learn this. We need to do this. And I would try and always change him on that level. So like what was that about? And there were things about me, same thing, that he wouldn't verbally try and change things, but actions, reactions, right? Or no action at all, right? Would cause me to start to make that shift. Like, okay, well, he wants me to be a little bit thicker. Let me get a little bit thicker. I don't want to be thick. Like, I love my body. I want to see my abs. He didn't like that. Okay, let's get rid of them. What? No, right? So it's like, yeah, the So the person that I'm with now, it's like fully authentic. Like I'm totally myself. I say just no filter. When we first met, I said, look, I'm going to make a promise that I'm going to be open and vulnerable and totally transparent. I'm not going to filter myself at all whatsoever because I lost myself before trying to be this person that I thought I needed to be to get the love that I wanted. Found myself and back, and I'm not going anywhere. So I'm putting it all on the table. If you like it, awesome. If not, that's fine too. I don't care.
Right.
Right. So when
Because
he
life is
agreed,
short, and you don't have time for this. Like you are who
exactly.
you are. You are who you are.
Right, right. And I mean, that was probably the best commitment that I've ever made. Because now that I've verbally made that commitment, when I find myself like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to say this because I don't want to hurt his feelings, I'm like, nope, I promised that I wasn't going to do that. And it blew right out.
Right.
And vice versa. Right. And the love is so different because you're seeing the whole person, not just the parts that they want to show you. You're not just showing what you think is your best.
Right.
It's all of it.
Because you want to see all the parts of somebody. Like I love that about love. Like I want to see your angry side. I want to love every part, every emotion you have. But some people just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
a
it's
lot of
funny
it.
when I first met him, one of his friends said, I can't believe, like actually all of his friends were like, I can't believe you got him to settle down. Well, now I see why I didn't. I didn't. Because no one is going to be perfect. So good luck. I don't.
Yeah. Yep. And that's a pattern that he gets to keep repeating until he looks at himself, right? Because it's always about him, the person, the other person, like you're always wrong. Change your job, change this, change that, right? Fit my mold. Where now you are in the opposite position to where you're like, no, I don't deserve that.
Right.
This is what I want, right? I'm myself. I'm going to be here and I'm open to the person that is going to match that.
Right. You have to take back that power because until you do, like, you'll just beat yourself up inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like with your daughter, so you said your daughter's 10. What's her name?
Bobby.
Bobby. I love it. So, like with Bobby, so she has seen pretty much all of it, right? She's, I'm sure, experienced your emotions going through it during, after the whole redo, and now
Yeah.
what, like, when you speak with her about like men, like, is that a conversation that you have with her? Like, what happened with you guys and like how you feel?
Yeah. It's funny. Like, we would, even when we were still in our relationship, and Bobby would be next to me and hear us talking on the phone, and I'd have to sometimes put her on mute, and she'd be like, yeah, because you're so perfect. Like, to him, like, she was understanding that, like,
Sassy.
people aren't perfect. And like, so she saw me go through a lot of emotions, but like, I think once the breakup happened, like I was in a really, really bad place for months, like crying every night, where I actually like, I felt like the walls were closing in on me, and I only had her to like literally lean my head on. And like, this poor 10-year-old's like catching all my emotions. And I don't like that I did that, but like, I'm hoping that she learns that. I don't even know, honestly, but she didn't like to see me cry. So now she's so worried about me being in another relationship because she never wants to see me cry again.
Mhm.
And she has a hard time trusting. She cried the other night about just having to trust another person again, because she really loved him, and he made a promise to her, like he made a promise to me, not once but twice, and it was broken. And when you break that promise, like she's 10, like she's gonna remember that. That's not just, she's not too little to for that to go away. Like, she's gonna take that with her.
Yeah. And I mean, because she is at such a young age, and I mean, I'm sure she's fully open to anything that you tell her. I think something that would be huge, like if I had a daughter and I was going through that, the whole trust thing, right? And seeing you being so like upset and broken and crying, like this is not all people, right? This was this person, and I just didn't see it because I wanted to get married, right? I wanted the family for me and you and all of us, that I kind of like just didn't pay attention to that and thought it would change. But now I know what to look for. Now I can see all of the things that I couldn't see before. Right. And even like talking with her about that, right?
Right.
That way she could feel empowered also, like, oh, okay, like, yeah, this is what my mom said. So like trusting someone, right? Like for me, I trust anyone right off the bat. Like until you give me a reason to not, like, you're good in my book. So like the red
But is that
flags of
good?
that.
Like in my head, I feel like trust isn't given right away. Like you need to earn it. So I told her when she said she doesn't trust, I'm like, you don't have to trust him. Like, don't like let him earn your trust. Like, you don't need to give it to him right away. Like, you don't need to, you know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like someone like that breaks your trust, like, no, you don't get that back. Maybe you get it back, but you do have to earn it back. But like just anyone else, yeah, just give it to him right off the bat.
No, not me. I'm so cautious. I'm so cautious.
Are you cautious now after him, or have you were cautious prior to?
No, I'm definitely more cautious now because
Yeah.
I never want that to happen again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I
And
don't even know if I want to get married. Like he literally turned me off to the whole idea of even getting married. So now it's like it's not even on my timeline where I want it to happen. Like I just hope that it will one day with the right person. But like now it's not. Oh my god, I want this so bad because I feel like he just ruined that fairy tale from me, and I'm hoping one day someone fixes what he broke.
yeah. Well, and really it's like in my experience anyway, because look, when I was going through the whole divorce thing, I was like, I am never getting married again. Hell no. Right. And then in conversation, I was asked, would you ever get married again?
I'm so curious.
And I was like, so my initial response, a few months ago was absolutely not. And now my response is if it's the right person, right?
Right.
Because I trust myself. And now I know from that relationship exactly what I want. And if it's not all the things that I want, there's absolutely no settling. Right. Like with this relationship, like if something happens that is a red flag for me, like a no, like bye. There's no, oh, maybe we can fit. No, bye.
Right.
Right. Like I'm firm in it. And it sounds like for you too, like you have cultivated this, like, okay, I don't want all of these things, and this is what I want.
Yeah, it
So
teaches
when,
you what you do want and what you don't want and what. Yeah.
yeah. So if you do meet somebody, right, and they are all of the things and there are no red flags, then it's easy,
Right.
right? They're not trying to stuff you into this little box. Come on.
Yeah. I'm not easily stuffable into a box. I don't know what happened. I'm telling you, it was a slow process. I didn't know it was even happening when it was happening. I would literally call my best friend and be like, am I crazy? Am I crazy? Like, do I need help? Do I have ADHD? Like all the things that like he was like magnifying my, my flaws. Like I literally thought something was wrong with me. Like, uh
And it's such a normal thing for women to do that. We take everything on as we're the ones that are, well, like, we got to fix ourselves. There's something wrong with us. It's very rare that you hear women that are like, oh no, he's fucking crazy. Get the right. It's the men always said that lady's fucking batshit crazy. And
yeah, but I never had that like with any other relationship. I never felt like it was my fault. Like it's really that manipulation game and the gaslighting. Like I never felt that. And I'm like, I'm too old to feel like I'm not like I never had this problem. I'm 40 years old. Like, why did I allow someone to make me feel like it's just me?
yeah, yeah.
Like I'm mad at myself for allowing that to happen.
Yeah. Well, and really, like, you didn't know that it was happening, right? So
Yeah.
technically, you weren't allowing it to happen. And like, if you look at it from the perspective, like, that those lessons were lessons that you needed. And you went through that because you needed those lessons. And it's going to result in something like, you thought you had a great relationship with him while you were in it. You learn those lessons, and now that's going to set you up for whatever magic is in your future, because now you have all of that. And no, I'm not doing any of this with anyone. If I feel this, I'm out. I only want, right? And that creates this here,
Yeah.
which is your fairy tale.
Right. But you know what? I also learned like it's not all about finding that person. Like that self-love for yourself is really the only person that you need. Like I learned like I don't like to be by myself, but like from this breakup, like I learned to love myself again and like I don't need anybody else. Like I need to love myself and all that love that I have for that I put into a guy or whatever, like I'm going to put into my kid and my family and that's true love. Like true love is not finding that one person to share your life with. It's really not. It's loving yourself. Like you marry yourself. Like and I feel like I learned to love myself coming out of that relationship.
Yes. And that's so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're in a relationship, if you're always at the point where like you check in, right? So like I check in with myself. I'm like, okay, if this person leaves, am I still happy? If the answer is yes, then you're fucking awesome. If it's no, then you better figure out what's going on, because like you said, that self-love, loving yourself, having the security with yourself, the trust
Yeah.
in yourself.
That person like really shouldn't complete you. Like you complete you.
Exactly.
You can
Yep.
merge your lives, but like you got to complete yourself.
Well, yeah, it's like, you don't make me happy, you add to my happiness, and we are happy together. You're happy, I'm happy, happy together.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And like being able to release any type of expectations was like a really big thing. After the divorce, I was like, okay, I'm not going to have any expectations really for anything. I'm just going to be totally open and leave it like that. And to not have an expectation of, where is this relationship going? Am I going to be with this person in a month, 2 months, whatever? Are we, like, no. And I don't expect anything from him, really, which is so freeing.
Yes. I feel like I'm in the same exact boat right now. Like I'm just practicing living in the moment right now. That's it. Like I'm not, no, not even tomorrow. Like just right now. Like be
Yes.
happy in
Yep.
the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, because really, when we're like there or there, like, what,
Yeah. You're either
this is
stressing about the
it.
past or you're stressing about the future. And
Yeah, right,
yeah,
right.
no more of that.
No, good. Yay. Well, it sounds like you're in a good place now.
I am. If you would have talked to me a few months ago, I was not in a good place. Like I actually was worrying I was going to cry on this, but I feel like I'm definitely stronger than I was a few months ago. And talking to a therapist really helped.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, you talk to a therapist, you have problems. Like everyone needs or should talk to a therapist.
Even if you don't think you have problems, that's like,
Right.
yeah. When I lived in New Jersey, I went to a therapist, right? I didn't have problems yet. My marriage wasn't the best thing ever. And I was like, well, you're not going to go. Well, I'm going to go. It's a stranger that doesn't know you. You can share your soul without feeling judged, and they give you honest, like, feedback and ask you
Yeah.
questions to pull shit out of yourself.
Yeah. I want to find a guy who actually is in therapy.
Yeah.
Like I like people that think they don't need therapy. My ex, like that doesn't think he has anything to work through, nothing. Like, no, you do. Like,
Everyone's got things.
and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like, you just need to be aware of where things came from and why you are the way you are, and how to move forward from there. But it doesn't need to. You don't need to cry about your past. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's a thing, right? It's like any type of work that you do, whether it's in therapy or, I mean, you work with plant medicine, you like whatever type of that inner work is, it takes courage
Every day, inner work, every day.
to be able to look at yourself and be able to say, okay, I want to change this. I want to get better. Right. When a lot of men and women, they're just like, nope, I'm good. Like they're scared shitless to look here.
Yes, agreed.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard to do that inner work, but it feels so good when you do. Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
I
You're
try to do like
amazing.
one thing every day, just one thing to like push yourself a little bit forward, like one thing to learn or one thing to listen to that you didn't know the day before, or like anything to just grow as a person and make yourself a little bit better than the day before. Like that's what I'm all about.
Mhm. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And like trusting in your future too. Right. Like that was a, and you may or may not be here yet, but there was a point where I was in like before I sold the house, before I moved out of the house, I was in the kitchen and I loved that house. So I was like crying because I didn't want to leave my house. And like I just felt so low, right? Like I'm losing my life. I'm like, Danielle, you can either decide to sit in this space and feel like this because it feels great, doesn't it? Or you can think about like what's in front of you, like everything and my whole entire life, like any person that I ever dated, any relationship, friendship, whatever, I was like, okay, well, there's always one better than the last, right? Each one continues to get better because we take the things, we don't like, blah, 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 and we know what we want moving forward. So I was like, okay, well, I know that there is somebody that I will be with. So let's just focus on that. And I just started talking to them. Was like, I love you, I'm praying for you, like wherever you are. I hope that anything that you're going through, challenges, whatever, like just conversation out of my mouth, right? Can't wait to meet you. I know that you're made for me, all of that stuff. And I just started doing that every day. And I would just imagine and feel
And
the
manifest.
love, the love from this person, the love that we had. When I moved into this apartment, same thing. I'd sit on the balcony every day and I would call it turning my beacon on. I would sit there and I would feel it and I would talk to this person. Right. And then all of a sudden he showed up.
How?
I met him through our mutual group of friends. I
Okay.
actually had been in the same place as him a couple times and just never saw him because I apparently wasn't the right time.
Right. All about timing.
Yeah, exactly. And being ready for it.
Hmm.
Right. Like at that time, I didn't want any of that because I didn't know I wanted any of that. I had what I thought I wanted. Yeah, that I convinced myself that I wanted. I have everything that I want.
Mm. Mm.
Well, and now like you created all that space. So now you have all of that space for something when it happens. When you're
Right.
ready.
Yep. But right now, in the meantime, I'm going to love myself and my daughter and my business, and I'm going to thrive that way, not worry about
Yes.
a guy.
Yeah. And like you said, that's what makes you happy, right? So yeah, cultivate your own happiness.
Yep.
Best kind. No one can take that away from you.
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So in closing, what would you say to like any women that are listening to this that like through our conversation, like they hear your words or like red flags that, you now realize and they're like, oh God, like that I could totally resonate with that. Like I experience that all the time. What type of advice would you give them?
To run when they see the carnival flag? I don't know. um, I mean, I feel like the most important thing is just to be authentic and don't force anything and don't try to change and be you and love yourself and yeah.
Yeah. And all those things that you just said, that's standing in your power,
Right.
right? Stand in
All
your
about your
power.
power.
Yeah. Stand in your power. Know that you're worthy. And if you're feeling any of those things, any negative emotions, when you feel those, it's because you're not aligned with your desire, right? Your natural state of happiness. So if someone is doing something and you're like, "Oh God, this doesn't feel good," like what is this? It's because that that's your body, your emotions giving you feedback, like this is not okay. It's not okay. It's not supposed to be like this.
Yeah. It's that women superpower we have inside of us that just tells us.
Well, like your body with the cast and the injuries, it's like
Yeah.
Danielle.
It was screaming at me and I just was like, ah, just wear a boot while I teach.
Well,
And
just
now
put a
I'm
band-aid on that.
yeah. And now I'm like jumping off the walls. I'm like, I'm healed
Yeah, right.
because I'm healed inside. And I feel like it's all about healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So, girls, if you're feeling any of that stuff, get your thoughts together.
Do things
Realize,
you
yeah, realize that you are worthy and find your power, stand in it, right? If that person that you're with doesn't support who you really are, then they don't love who you really are. And there are many, many people that do. So, support team, reach out to me. I'm sure reach out to Danielle. I'm sure she would be thrilled to have
thrilled.
a conversation. Yeah, for sure. For sure. It is beautiful on the other side. It's shitty going through any type of breakup, right? Boyfriend, fiance, husband, anything. Like it sucks because you live with somebody, your energy is together, and now half of it's not there, and you feel like, okay, like I'm missing an actual piece.
Yeah. And when
You
you have your
know?
whole life planned out and it gets ripped out from underneath you, you're lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
I couldn't even imagine going through a divorce, honestly.
mhm, mhm,
There's always people out there a little bit worse than you. And
mhm. Yeah. And like now that you went through that, you never know. This could be the saving you from a crazy
oh,
divorce.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm. Yeah. And like you said, it's like, having everything ripped out from under you and basically ripped away from you, right? You have all of that. And it's all about the healing now,
Yeah.
taking care of yourself, loving yourself.
Yeah.
And then that energy fills back in. And then you feel whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get yourself some good friends and do some things you love to do. Just be
Yep.
happy. Because
Yes.
we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time.
Yeah. I love it.
I
I
live by
love
that
it.
quote. I literally live by that quote.
You just put it on pause for a minute, but now you're back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how much I didn't live my life the last 2 years. Like I didn't do anything. Now I'm like, I can go do yoga 4 days a week and I can go have dinner with my friends. And like, it's so good just to do things you love to do and the simple little things that you should have had a life the whole time you're with somebody. And I didn't have my own life.
Yeah. Well, now you're free, right? And now you remember what that feels like. You remember those pieces of you that you kind of let go. And now you won't let them go again because you realized or you lived the life that you didn't have with those parts of you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are questions I ask everybody.
Oh, geez.
What's your definition of a good life?
A good life. Ooh, to be happy. Just to be happy. Not with anybody else, with yourself. Just be happy. You have to own your own happy.
Yes. Love.
Truly happy. Not,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes. And what's your superpower?
Resilience.
Ooh, that's a sexy one.
Yeah. I mean, I've been knocked down many, many times. I will never play victim to that. I will always be a victor out of everything I've ever been knocked down with.
Fuck yeah. It's
Fuck
gotta
yeah.
be a Danielle thing. Oh, that's amazing. You're amazing.
So are you.
Thank you. And I mean, everything you went through, I feel how much that hurts and it sucks. And you're here and you're talking about it and you've learned from it and you've grown from it and just all of the things that you have already in your life, minus that, right?
Yeah.
Like, amazing. So blessed, so grateful. I'm so grateful that you came to hang out with me and have this conversation. I love you.
I'm coming down soon, I swear.
Yes, please do. Please do.
My home state.
Mhm. All right, guys, well, that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you for joining us, for joining Danielle and I. So until next time, this has been the Stage of Greatness. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're on Spotify, leave a star review. If you're anywhere, leave a review. I'm going to put Danielle's contact information. If you want to get in touch with her, reach out to her. If you're going through something similar, you want to have a conversation, some support, just an ear, a friend, reach out to her, reach out to me. We are here for you, girls. Remember, you are worthy and you deserve everything you desire, and you can have it. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.